Welcome to another Word of Torah with Moshe Abrams and me, Rod Bryant. We have such a great time doing this, and we missed you the last couple of weeks, but we're going through Pesach, but we're going to pick right back up where we're at, and it's actually chapter 3 of Genesis, verse 17. Let's jump right into it. By the way, I just want to remind you, if you're interested in private classes with Moshe, you can send him an email at
MosheTeaches@gmail.com. I wonder if I can bring that up so you can see it.
That's a really good email address, MosheTeaches@gmail.com. So make sure you fill it out, the information. Yes, we'd love to see you. Matter of fact, those are two words put together.
Yeah, it's all one word, but I just thought it'd be easier to read like that.
Absolutely. And if anybody gets if you hear any audio issues, we're going through a tremendous amount of flooding in the area, so it might have some effect on, I don't know, the internet. It shouldn't, but if you're getting any interruption, we'll try to edit it out. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Moshe, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good, yeah. Well, where we left off, I think, was a really interesting place last time. It was, almost somewhat of a cliffhanger. God was talking to Adam and Chava, or Adam and the wife, as of yet, about what they had done, what they had chosen to do, what they decided. And we've been talking this whole time about whether or not it was a good thing or a bad thing, or if there are any grey areas. And it's a real, hot button question. Here in Yod Zion, which is Yod is the 10th letter of the alphabet, Zion is the 7th. So this is verse 17 of chapter 3. It says, Ula Adam Amar, and to Adam he said, Ki Shemata. Now, lots of people know that Shema, Shema Yisrael, Amanai Elokeinu, Amanai Echad. This Shema is the verb to hear, to listen, to understand. But it also says Ta, because you listened. So the ta, it's like the way to say you, masculine in Hebrew, is to say atah, so it's atah shemata. Because you listened, lakal ishtecha, to the voice of your wife. Now this is something worth questioning, because if we're talking about that he obeying his wife and ate the fruit, if we thought that was a bad thing, this now sounds like it's implying that listening to your wife is a bad thing. But we do get reassured back in the story of Abraham. There's a point where God specifically says, listen to the voice of your wife. Listen to your wife. This is not seen by God as a bad thing. But because you listened to the voice of your wife and ate, v'tochal min ha'etz, and ate from the tree, asher tziviticha, that I commanded you. Tzav is like the tzav from the middle of mitzvah. A mitzvah is a commandment. Tzav is to command. Tziviti is I commanded, and tziviticha is I commanded you. That I commanded you, lemor, to say, lo tochal. That I said to you, don't eat mimenu. Arur ha'adama, cursed is the ground. Now there's two things in there. I've been kind of going back and forth and saying, did he explicitly say don't eat, or did he kind of say you can eat from all of them and also you can't eat from this? Well, he certainly didn't say you can eat. He said you can eat from everything, and then separate of that, he said, don't eat from this one because when you do, you die. So really he's made two opposite statements, and it was for them to decide which of the two to do. And he's saying, as a consequence of that, the ground is cursed. Now, in the case of the snake was cursed. In this case, the ground is cursed. He could have cursed the Adam, and we would have been scuppered from the beginning. But the Adam is not cursed. It says, Arur ha'adama, that cursed is the ground, but avurcha, for your sake. Avur is sake, is the consequence of. Be'itzavon tochlena, in difficulty you will eat. Now this eitzavon, this is the same word as the woman had in terms of her birth. And it's really worth pointing out that if that was her curse, if that was her difficulty, it's difficulty that results in babies. To have difficulty in birth, the outcome is still family, it's still babies, it's still a good thing, it's not a curse. Having babies is not a bad thing, it's not a curse. It will be difficult. So God is giving them the understanding of the fact that life isn't going to be easy, it's not going to be Gan Eden. What you've chosen is a tough life. Giving birth, working jobs, working the ground. The ground is not going to give you everything like it did in Gan Eden. So what we're hearing really isn't curses. It is the reality of the real world outside of the Gan Eden. Be'itzavon tochlena, in difficulty you will eat kol yamei chayeka, all the days of your life. Sorry, Rod.
No, there's something really important. I wanted to make sure that people could hear. When you read the text and it said, "And the ground was cursed," the first thing that comes to mind is, well, why would God curse the ground? It didn't do anything. Like, why the ground? We have to remember it was the action of Adam and Chava, or Eve, or his wife at the now, that created the consequences of now the earth is going to bring forth thorns. It wouldn't have done that before. That was important to understand. And so when it says that a man that does this will be punished or be cursed, it is they are cursing or punishing themselves by their actions. It is not Hashem that's doing that. It's not the creator of the universe. He's not Pacricius. He's not going out looking for someone to whack. He's not a mafia god, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to remember that. So I just wanted to add just a little extra emphasis on the commentary.
Absolutely. It's a great point. And because we love anthropomorphizing,
right.
Our natural thing is to say, well, if the ground is cursed, well, what did the ground do wrong? Like, why does the ground have to suffer? We immediately think about it in terms of its suffering, but the ground is something created by God for us to use. So changing the condition of the ground changes the condition that we will interact with it.
Precisely.
It's not that the ground isn't sad now.
Right.
It's not resenting us for getting it cursed. But absolutely. But the result is we now get thorns. We now have to cultivate it. We now have to elevate it. Something that I listened to a radio show about the first settlers in America. And when they first arrived, they found that it was very bountiful. And they, what is this country? That everywhere we go, there's stuff you can eat. There's stuff which has medicinal purposes, and they had no idea. They thought that this was just the best country that they could have stumbled across. What they didn't realize is that the areas they landed in, the Native Americans had a culture of cultivating. They wouldn't put up fences. What they would do is if they found something useful, they go, "We'll eat this, and we'll make sure we put the seeds back in the ground." And over thousands of years of living there, they kept on improving the land just by having a balance with it.
Right.
So that by the time the Europeans arrived, they went, "Wow, all of this is edible. This is great."
Right. No, absolutely. That's a good point. Very good point.
And this is what Adam is being charged with. He's being, they're going into the ground, which makes thorns, and they're supposed to farm it and nurture it and elevate it. And that really could be considered a metaphor for what we all should be doing in terms of sin and suffering. We're supposed to go into a sinful world and remove the sin. We're supposed to go into a world of suffering and remove the suffering.
Correct.
Often, if you pass a homeless person on the street and you don't have anything on you, the instinct is to go, "Oh God, why is there suffering in the world?" But when you feed someone, the feeling of rightness with you and the person and God, people don't tend to question why is there suffering after they've managed to remove suffering. They only tend to question as if it's God's responsibility to remove suffering. So why did you put suffering in the world? It's our job to make the world better.
This is why the whole idea of repairing after you have sinned, I mean, repenting or saying I'm sorry or feeling sorrow is, I mean, it's a good thing. But it really means nothing if it's not concluded with replanting and regrowing in a positive way. And that's what this text is about right here. It's establishing that sort of basic principle of redemption, repentance, redemption, tikkun, repair. So anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. The idea that the feeling motivates you to act in the positive. Right. It's not about just sitting there feeling sad. It's about going, I don't like this feeling. Let's make it go away by doing something good. And I like that. I like that. So here is that word arur, right? So in this case, it says arura. It's in the feminine. It has a feminine hey on the end because the ground is feminine. So that's what that grammatical connection is. And here are all these different versions. If I wanted to say I cursed something, that's for sure, I might say aroti, right? But there's different versions for it depending on who's doing it to who, if it's singular, masculine, plural, feminine, masculine, plural, singular. There's all these different versions. We should start talking about, we won't do it today maybe, but soon we should start talking about a little bit of grammar to help people read themselves these texts, because at the moment we're familiarizing ourselves with the way the words sound and the way they interact with each other. But let's go a little bit deeper and maybe do something on the binyanim next week.
Sure, that sounds
perhaps. Good. So, Arura Adama, the ground is cursed. Lo tochal mimenu Arura ata Adama be'itzavon. This is the same. This is that same word as we saw in terms of her reaction. And then here we have coats. Now these aren't words that we really need to look in very deeply to, because coats and dada are really just thorns and thistles, and that doesn't come up very, very often. So this is something we can take a glance over and see, well, it's a noun. It must have had some sort of root under it. And if you want to understand what a thorn is, you can find what is the root to thorn. But it says, kots v'darda, thorns and thistles, tatzmiach. Tatzmiach is will plant. So, and it says lach, tatzmiach lach, you will plant for yourself. Now, obviously, he doesn't really want to plant thorns and thistles. So why is God saying you're going to do this? Why? What's the benefit in planting thorns and thistles? What he's doing is really, you're an amateur. You're starting off. Any new farmer's not going to get a lot out of the ground, you know?
Right.
Okay, this is the little steps. You're gonna figure it out to start with. You're going to struggle. It says, Kots v'darda tatzmiach lach, you're going to plant for yourself. Va'akalta et esev hasadeh, and you will eat the sprouty things of the field. So, very soon, hopefully he gets up to lasagna, but to start with, he's eating shoots and seeds and things, right? The absolute basics. These are the things which were introduced during creation. God said, tatzmiach, tadshei haaretz desha esav, that the ground will sprouting grasses. And so it's going to evolve. It's going to escalate. We're going to get bread. But it says, bezeat. And zeat is sweat, zayin, ayin, hey. This is bezeat apecha. And we say by the sweat of your brow, right? Because that's where it starts to be when you're working hard. Right. But this is something slightly different. Instead of saying brow, it says af. Now, an af is a nose. Now, of course, the sweat of your brow, it runs down your nose, yada, yada. But actually, it's saying something a little bit more subtle. This is the way the poetry of the Torah works. Af means a nose, but it also is a word for anger and frustration. So it's a nice little phrase, bezeat apecha, by the sweat of your nose or by the sweat of your frustration, tochal lechem, you will eat bread. So it starts off with the coats and the dada, the thistles and the thorns, but the outcome is you're going to get to bread. It's saying it's going to be tough going, but you will succeed. Right. There's so many times God talks to these characters, and it's with this optimism. Even when he speaks to one of their sons who has a particular problem with anger, and God gives him a bit of a pep talk, and he says, you can overcome this. There's always that idea. Right. Even when he talks about expelling the Jews from Israel, it always ends with, and then I'll bring you back. It always ends on this note of, I want you to be working towards the positive. But zeat apecha tochel lechem, by the sweat of your nose you will eat bread, ad shuvcha El ha'adama, until shuvcha, you return el ha'adama. Now we're going to get that phrase. You can feel it coming. Until you return to the ground. Because ki mimena, because from her, lukachta, because from her you were taken. Her, of course, is referring to the ground. Ki afar atah, because dust you are. Va'el afar, to shuv. And to dust you will return. So there's always that idea that at least part of us is the physical, is the earthly, is the base. And there's the other aspect of us, which is the spiritual, which is the holy. And that's the weird thing about people. We're different from all the other animals. We're different from all the other creations. We're this fusion of the godly and the earthly. The angels are just the godly. The animals are just the earthly, but we're the both things brought together. because this idea that we're supposed to be cultivating the earth, because we're supposed to be saying we're bringing the godly and the physical together, the mundane and the holy all to one. And that's what's really special about people. And that's what our purpose is. Our mission is to turn the secular holy. Oh, I'm sorry, Rod, you're muted. I can't hear you.
I didn't want you to hear all of the other creaking noises in my office. But no, this is really important element of Judaism, that we are brought into this world. We agree to come into this environment. Now, I know there's a Talmudic statement that says that we, against our will, we're formed against our will, we're born against our will, we exist, and then we die, right? Against our will, meaning we didn't choose those things. We didn't choose when we were born. We didn't choose how our life was going to turn out. We try our best, but it turns out, and we don't choose when we die. It's kind of a little rough, but it's this process we chose. We chose from the beginning, and that is, we understood. Now, we don't get it when we're here, but we understood that we are here to infuse into physicality this divine essence that Hashem sort of stepped back and said, okay, let's see if you guys can do it. It's like watching the child ride his or her bicycle without training wheels.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The opportunity of a lifetime to be able to do that. And notice the first example of cursing is the curse has always a benefit. The curse is that by your labor, you'll bring bread, you'll have sustenance. You, though you may seem that you look at the earth as cursed, and what's the point? No, that's not, it's not meaning it's useless now. If you do something that curses you, you're not, useless to God and useless to society. No, you just have to put the labor in to produce the bread. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm sorry. I get these texts and it's like, got to mention.
No, that's absolutely it. I like that idea, and it's almost like the family business as well. Because when first God started talking about, like, Na'aseh Adam b'Tzelmenu, we will make Adam in our image. Right. He wants us to emulate him and to come in, and he brings the holy into the profane, and he's like, you too. Like, let's all do it. That's how we connect. Right. If you want to connect with your dad, you've got to find what's the same about the two of you and do something together. Let's build something. Mum, you can talk to. You can just have it all out. But Dad, it's much easier to connect with Dad when you're fixing something. Let's go and fix the lawnmower or something. Let's take some time over it.
Hold the flashlight. Hold the flashlight right there.
right. And we're always on edge about it. But that's the best time. That's the best memory. Yeah. Hold the sun.
Yes, hold the sun.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Okay, so it's interesting that some of this language we're just so familiar with, and then you see it emerge from the Hebrew, and you go, "Oh, I know this one. So it says, "V'yikra ha'adam shem ishto." So at the end of all of this, just as you said, you could say, well, you curse the ground. There's no point trying if there's going to be a curse in it. If there's going to be a difficulty, if there's going to be something to overcome. What's the point? But he doesn't do that. Immediately Adam speaks, and he doesn't speak back to God and say, oh, I wish I'd had it easier than that, or can you just give me a boost up? He immediately speaks. V'yikra ha'adam shem ishto. And he did the Adam, the name of his wife, Chava. This is the bit for me, because I go back and forward. Oh, here it sounds like we're in trouble for eating the fruit. And here it sounds like we should have eaten the fruit. And there's this, and maybe we go back and forward. But this one, for me, this is the clarifier. He names his wife Chava. Because he hayata, she was Aim Kol Chai, the mother of all life. That doesn't sound to me like someone who blames his wife for the situation she's in. He didn't name her before. Before, he said, now, this time, she will be called Isha, because from Ish she was taken, but flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. And he called it Isha, which is not a name, it's a description. It's a woman. But this is her name. And he has a descriptor. He has Adam, which just means the man. He doesn't get a name. So he goes above.
Do you ever address your lovely bride as, hey, woman? Or
No, I've referred to her as the boss because
the
everyone
boss.
knows who I'm
Okay,
talking
I just
about.
make
I
sure.
call her the boss. Yeah. but isn't that lovely? He calls her Chava, and it shows us that the aim kol chai, that this word Chava comes from the root chai, to live, and it's not that she lived; it's that she's the mother of life. And what does that relate to? That relates to the fact that she's going to have difficulty in birth. He's naming her a beautiful name that's based off what some people would call a curse. It's not a curse. It's just hard to be a mum. That's not a curse. That's just the consequences of doing something beautiful and wonderful. And he's just like, she should be named for this amazing thing. No people have been born yet, but we've just been told she's going to struggle, and through her struggle, she's going to bring about life.
Right.
He's going to struggle, and he's going to bring about bread. Now, anyone who's baked a bread and been proud of it goes, "Oh, it's great to work hard and bake a bread." But obviously, a baby is better. A baby's more impressive.
Of course,
right?
yes. That's why we say we have a bun in the oven, right, or something like that. There's a reference I think we have in English. It does that, yeah.
Absolutely, and that's it. They're both bringing out these creative acts. He's bringing out a creative act to feed his wife, who's going to bring about the creative act of producing his children. And so this is teamwork. There's so much of people trying to pit men and women against each other and pit wives and husbands against each other. We're supposed to be a team. Correct. We're really pulling together. That's the ideal. And we should stop with all this squabbling and get back to the bit where you look at your wife and go, wow, she's the mother of life. Right. This is tremendous. Wow, she figured out the fruit thing. And nifakdu, she opened our eyes. This is where we want to move back to. Not to jump to the conclusion of, because you listen to your wife, you're in trouble. No. Because you listen to your wife, now we're in this situation. You're going to be a man, you're going to work. You're going to be a woman, you're going to bring about life. And we're not going to squabble about, which one's more important. This is all amazing. That's why we can never look at a failure or a sin or whatever you want, missing the mark, as the end all of your existence. Every failure is nothing more than the next step for progression to success. I mean, this is just the way it is. You look at all the millionaires that exist in the world. Many of these people have filed bankruptcy more than any average human being. A lot of average human beings never file for bankruptcy, and these guys just do it, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So the whole point is, how many failures does it take to become a winner? And it's not about your failures mean that you cannot win. That's a very important, and this comes from the Genesis, from the very beginning of the text. Yeah, you see it throughout the patriarchs as well, because you hear this wonderful journey of Abraham coming from an idolatrous country where his dad was an idol maker, and he goes on this big swirling journey where things go right and things go wrong, there's battles and war. And then you get Isaac. And Isaac's story is very short. Right. He barely gets any story. He comes in, he obeys his father, even when his father is taking him up a mountain with a knife, and then he gets married and he settles down, and that's it. And then along comes Jacob. Right. And Jacob is, dressing up in costumes of goat skin and deceiving his father and going back and forward and struggling with his uncle. And he's half the book of Genesis is all Jacob's story, right? Right. So it's like, which became the seed for the birth of Israel in the land of Egypt. Absolutely. Yeah. That stuff comes from struggle. You can have an easy, quiet life and never be mentioned. Yes. Or you could say, okay, let's have this adventure and let's learn from this struggle. Let's benefit from these thorns and these thistles and eventually get to really good bread that I can use to feed my children. Well, we have some more time. You want to jump into a little bit more text before or you want to end it right there? Well, yeah, let's take a little look about where we're going to pick up next week. Does that sound all right? Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. And okay, so that always has an impact on me when I get to that moment, the idea that she's the Aim Kol Chai, and just think about it all the time. And I'm sorry, that is when those slides finish. Yes. So what I want to come in, if it's all right with you and you guys at home, I want to come and have a look at something else next time, which is the binyanim. Oh, and this is a function of grammar, and I'm a bit of a one for the grammar. You get me into the boring weeds of the function of words. But what it does is it'll open up the language to you.
Okay.
Because we learned English by just listening for years until it started to make sense. But there's a pattern to Hebrew which is very regular. And once you learn that pattern, suddenly you start being able to kind of challenge the meanings of words and say, okay, so what's the root to this, and what does it mean? What's its function? So if I can show you this chart here, next week we'll look at this. And what it is it's different intensities of the same word.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, in English, to say eat, corrode, devour, feed, all those words are completely unconnected. There's no pattern amongst them. You just have to learn all the individual words.
Right.
Whereas here in Hebrew, you can start off with the simple word akal, which means to eat, and you can change the vowels from achal to ichel, and you get an intensive version of to eat. Instead of being to eat, it becomes to corrode. Right, and that's obviously an intensive version of an acid eating away.
Which really provides you with a better description of what's happening to consume that item.
Right, that it's eating it away.
Right.
And on the same field, on the same subject, you can add in a hey and add in a yod. You still have this aleph kaf lamed, but you add in a hey and a yod, and it becomes hekil, and that's to feed. And you realize, oh, that means if I learn this pattern, what these different extra letters are, I'll spot what the root is, and then so I can see a word that I've never seen before and go, oh, the root is this, so the subject is this. It's something about running, but it's being chased or something. You know, you'll say, oh, this word is flipping it around to mean a different meaning, and so you'll spot those little clues and those indicators, and you'll be able to Sherlock Holmes your meaning out of words you've never seen before. And it also means that because there are these 7 branches, the Pa'al, the Pi'al, the Hifil, the Hipa'al, the Hufal, the Pu'al, and the Nifal, you can learn one root like Kal, and suddenly you know what 7 different words would be, even theoretically speaking. So it's going to be
increases a person's vocabulary that quick. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it also means that you can do clever things, like you can spot something and go, oh, I know this is about killing, but did he kill or was he killed? It's on this side, it has a who foul, so it's this and that, and suddenly it will kind of give you those little details, specifics about who did what to whom.
Right, and as you said before, in English we have completely separate words to describe these things that in Hebrew gives you the root. You know what the ultimate outcome is, but you don't know the method or what was the driving factor behind it. And the Hebrew gives you that description. That's beautiful. Incredible.
Absolutely. Great. So should we say goodbye to our wonderful companions?
If we have
just for a moment?
It's so sad to see you go. Hey, look, we just want you to do us a favor. Not you, do us, them, you watching, not you. Them.
Yeah, gotcha.
Who's on first? So
right.
I just ask you, share this with your friends. Take time, go and subscribe, not only to the channel, but click the notification button. So when we have new shows that will premiere at 10 a.m. on Monday morning, you'll get notified. It'll remind you, or you'll get sent it and you can watch it later. But just take time to subscribe on NETIV's YouTube page and hit notifications, and you can personalize it. Also, if you want to receive private lessons or personal lessons by Moshe Abrams, you can go to mosheteaches@gmail.com. mosheteaches@gmail.com. Want to thank you so much, guys. There you go. Well,
can I just add, one other request as well? If you guys have got any burning questions, if there's something that you can say, they keep on just missing this question I have, you can send us an email as well. Send us an email and we'll see. We'll try and include them into the video.
And we're also going to attempt a particular day, and we'll announce it in advance so that you can make sure you're there. We're going to include you in the discussion, meaning that we'll open up the chat room and allow you to send your chats. And we'll chat back and forth with you as best as we can during the class. Okay, so we'll work out all those details. We don't have some professional studio in a back lot somewhere. We're at our houses and we're a one-man band. So we'll figure it out. And when we do, we're going to be back with you. But may your learning be elevated. We're in the time this year, right now, where we're starting the counting of the Omer. And it's about improving yourself. What a great way to improve yourself. The Hebrew language is so important. If you want to know the code of life, it's found in the Torah, in the Word of God. So until next Monday at 10 a.m., we're going to say shalom, shalom, leitraot, shalom.
Bye.